Hey everyone, and welcome to a Jurassic World Evolution 2 video. Today we are going to do a little wrap up of the Gamescom 2021 information dump of Jurassic World Evolution 2. So we are going to look into all the things we've seen for the first time. I've got some footage included from Best in Slot, who gave me access to his stuff, and I'm also having all the stuff that we saw yesterday in the Gamescom wrap up that Jurassic World Evolution 2 and Frontier did themselves. So we're going to have a look at all the stuff you want to see, like aviaries and general gameplay, and obviously also Mosasaurus and how the tanks work. But we are going to go over this in detail, and I'm trying to cut this very shortly for you, so it's not really going to be super long. So in case you haven't seen everything, hopefully this video is going to give you all the stuff you want to see in one place. But first of all, let's have a look into the release trailer, and then we see each other again after the trailer to go into detail.
Welcome to Jurassic World.
Alright, off we go with some general gameplay. Again, just credit where credit belongs. This is from Best in Slot. He had access early on to play the game for an hour, and he did some videos on that, and this is also what we're looking into. So this is the very first glimpse you get at the gameplay, and the first mission he played was basically this Allosaurus reintroduction program, or however this mission was called. But you can see a little bit of gameplay here in the first bit, and there's really not that much to talk about because the game essentially feels pretty much the same as you would expect it to be, you know, the same as the previous title. There are a couple of changes to the interface, there are a couple of changes to how certain things are located in the menu, but overall there's not really that big of a difference. You can also see from the screen right now the gameplay looks pretty similar, the icons look pretty similar, everything looks really quite familiar with how Jurassic World Evolution 1 established the overall look and feel. There are a couple of things in detail that are different. So for example, how the transport works and stuff, you have everything available on different facilities, but I think you guys read a lot about this stuff already, but we are also going to talk about one specific facility at the end of today's video as well. But now let's go over to the next one, which is just a little bit of car driving, because I wanted to show you the weather effects we have to talk about. This is the snowy effect. We've also seen some rain in some other videos, but this is like a little bit of a snowstorm. We will have rain, snowstorms, and also some sandstorms in the sand biome, but that's all we want to talk about. Now, the next bit we have to talk about is a little bit of a cutscene, which I loved a lot because that was something I was sometimes not missing, but really I didn't really like how they realized that in Jurassic World Evolution 1. And this feels a bit more organic because the world is open. You can see he's driving around here, and the whole world obviously feels a lot more open because you're not, restricted to the island. So it feels like you're open in the wild, and so things can happen, which you will see in a couple of seconds over here. You see some dead animals, and then you see the reason why. And there is this wild Allosaurus coming out of the forest, which is obviously very close to what you would expect from the movie that is, going to be released soon, which the game is obviously very close to and related to, meaning that we can see some free dinosaurs. And I love how they realized that, because if you remember, in Jurassic World Evolution 1, they kind of were already on the map, so it was really not that you kind of discovered them. They were basically just there, and so this is why I love this a lot. And basically what you see over here is you have to catch it before it's going to kill all the other dinosaurs in that environment. Now, back on the station, we see some, wonderful beautification with the rocks, and just briefly showing you how it works with the rotation tool. You can see you can rotate it that axis, or you can also rotate it, as you can see in a couple of seconds, around the other axis over here, which makes the rocks a lot more versatile and also makes sure that the rocks are looking a little more different. I'm a little bit, disappointed that you can't raise those, but I think, this might have been a little bit too much as well, because the game still has to be console. Here you can see some of the brushes, which obviously, since the game should be focused a bit more on management, makes a lot of sense that you have these tools available like that. You have different sizes of the radius, you have different threads of the radius, and you can mix in different trees and stuff like that. So this is really interesting and really great. I would have loved to see a possibility to put the trees down as a single tree, also like a decoration, but to be honest, I think you can achieve what you need to achieve in this game with the tool available, and the small radius seems to be rather small as well, which is great. But now, the next thing we need to talk about is this wonderful treatment facility, which is kind of a vet station, if you will, and I like how it's kind of realized with the robots. Potentially you don't want to have doctors right over there, you don't want to have them sitting together with the T-Rex in a truck, as they did in one of those movies, because that might be a little bit too dangerous. But here you can see the robots doing the job, kind of curing the animal, healing it, and doing the treatment. And once the treatment is done, you can bring it back into its enclosure. So I think this is a really nice little addition to the game that we were lacking in the first one, and which makes a lot of sense if this is a lot more about caring for our dinosaurs rather than just making a theme park out of it. So we have a lot more sanctuaries, and then you want to make sure and ensure that they do good and they do feel great, and this makes a lot of sense. And I like the facility how it is. I like the fact that you can see it. I'm wondering if the animations will be, or like not the animation, but the position in which the dinosaur is lying is kind of the same. But anyways, moving on to the next one, I brought you in some gameplay over here that has a bit more of how the game feels and works again with the excavation. I think, most of it is the same. However, you need some staff members this time to do it, so you can't just click and do all the excavations, and once you have enough facilities, that's easy. I'm guessing though, once you have enough staff members, you still do just click as it goes, but I think it just adds a little bit that you need to assign the scientists to certain tasks, such as excavation and such as researching the fossils and stuff like that. So that makes a lot of sense that you have a bit more of variability in there. But again, I'm not sure if that's like a huge change. It's like a nice addition, but yeah. So again, you can also see how it works, like getting rid of some of the trees. Again, brushes are pretty much the same. It's a very solid step up from what we had in Jurassic World Evolution 1. We get a lot more different tree types, a lot more different foliage type, a lot more different bushes, and paired with a bit more of a more detailed brush. The brush has, I think, 5 steps instead of 3, so you can be a bit more precise in what you do. The water tool has obviously some improvements as well. Not as much as I was hoping, because I thought you could make lagoons, but instead you're researching the lagoons, which we are talking about in a bit. But it's not like that you have kind of a complete freedom to build the tanks, which is a little bit of a downer, but at the other hand, I know why they do it, and I think it works a bit better also with the viewing galleries. But here you can see this is like how research works now, feeders and stuff that you reach once at a time. and then you can go next to the thing. But I think, you know, research trees are very familiar. I don't need to talk too much about it. But what I need to talk about it is this. We now have customizability of shops. So don't expect anything like Planet Coaster, but there is at least enough customizability that not every single park looks exactly the same. You can choose the different meals you want to choose. You can choose the different prices. You can choose stuff for different target groups, which is nice. But obviously, you can also do recoloring. You can change different elements from the building. It's basically just a drop and drag, which you will see in a couple of seconds. Rather than having a bit more of control over. I thought maybe we have some modules that we can tag to it, but you know, it's basically, as you can see, just swiping through different prefab elements. And here's me telling you, I think I'm fine with that, because I know why they potentially also needed to do that. Even if Frontier would have loved to integrate a bit more piece by piece, the problem might have been Universal at this point, because whenever you give people too much freedom, they can build whatever they want and they can go for different styles. However, this is also a marketing tool for Universal and the brand Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, meaning that you should not be able to differentiate too much from this look that they establish, because that's part of their brand. And so you can recolor stuff, but the overall architecture and the overall style is still the same. You know, adding some colors to it is fine, but it's still this kind of modern-esque concrete building style, and you can't change too much about it. I think this is, you know, and having this in mind, I think it's one of the better solutions now that we can choose these different things. There were quite some options in there. So I'm, you know, also looking into the live stream, there was a lot of options available. So I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm quite certain that you can create some nice areas, also play around with foliage and stuff. So there are some options to make your areas look different each time you play, which I think is good for the replayability of a game. But on the other hand, it's nothing like Planet Coaster, Planet Zoo, but you know, we really didn't expect it because we knew it. You can also change the light color, which I love for nighttime, which is great. Also confirming day-night cycle again, but I think this is, again, no surprise since we had that later on in Jurassic World Evolution 1, and kinda already at the beginning with the different time of days on different islands. So it was more or less in the game already, and now we have it from the start, which is great. But yeah, you can see over here we're going on now finally with the lagoon again. This is what Best in Slot did, and again, we don't have like full control of the lagoon. You have basically a grid that you have to use. So as you can see, it snaps like to it, and you can build, I think, in 45-degree angles, if I'm not really wrong here. So you can build these shapes over here. You can make bigger shapes, you can smaller shapes, and it just kind of automatically adds to it. You will see later on that you can also increase the size on the go, but then you have like obviously a new hatchery, which you tuck to it, because you know the normal one obviously doesn't work. I haven't seen really from anyone, correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen anyone having two different species in there and then separating the habitat later, so you release them in the same and then putting them into the next one. That's what I'm thinking at least. But yeah, path building pretty much stayed the same. You just now have down there like a little slider in which you can go through different styles. It worked pretty much as before. The game overall doesn't really look super different, and even the viewing galleries and such are pretty similar. There are a couple of changes here and there, a couple of improvements. Obviously, one of the bigger improvements is that you can now adjust the time. You know, you can finally stop the game, you can finally increase the speed or decrease the speed, which honestly, I think is one of the major changes I really do love, because that is finally giving me a bit more control over the game, and so I'm not really feeling super stressed. And then I'm hoping, obviously, this is giving us a bit more of a challenge in the game itself, so it can make the game a bit more complicated, because you can pause and reorganize, and I think this just makes an overall better game experience. This is obviously our Mosasaurus coming out of it, and now you can finally see it in action, swimming around in its habitat, or in its lagoon, if you will. I like the fact that they also call that lagoon builder and not like tank builder, because you just have to build it so big that it's automatically like a lagoon. And then you can see Sebastian Slot was looking for a feeder, but then you had to research the feeder, what you saw earlier, and then you tuck the feeder to the side of the habitat. As you can see right now, he's just going to increase the speed here a little bit to get the money together to build it, and then he can finally put the feeder to the side of it, so Mosasaurus is a bit more happy, obviously, with food. You know, alternatively, we would have loved to put the guest in, but, well, whatever, it's not possible. But yeah, you can see this is also like a little bit of a research tab over here, where you can research carnivores and genomes of them. Everything changed a little bit, but not too dramatically, so that there is no need to really go too much into it. But I'm feeling that this is really a good way to show it off right now. If you guys are obviously interested in seeing this all in detail, I highly recommend to jump over to Mr. Best in Slot. Or also, I think the Gaming Beaver has some cool footage as well. So, you know, jump over there, watch it. It's a couple of hours of footage if you want to see it. But I think I tried to cover now every single bit that is interesting. I might have missed something in the nuances of the game, but yeah. So the last bit we are looking at is the underground viewing. It's like, you know, completely, you're not able to go down with the camera in the game, but you can always access the viewing from these viewing platforms, and then you just go underwater and wait for it to pass by. This is how it works. It's a little bit different from Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo, obviously, where you can build everything in free, but you have this version now to, you know, just stay down here and then watch into the lagoon. I like that they have some little bits and pieces to the ground to not make it like too shallow and easy. But yeah, that's how it just looks. And this basically covers all what we have over here. There is just one more thing we need to talk about, and this is Aviary. So we are just basically having a look now at the Frontier live stream. I know there's also some other footage, but I liked how they showed it off for the live stream. And you can see they built some aviaries over here. And, you know, I think it's easy to see them right after each other. So you have the understanding that both systems basically work identically. Also, we have a little glimpse at the territories, which I wanted to quickly, you know, jump towards to, because we have talked about that. We knew that there are territories, but one interesting bit, we will see this in a couple of seconds, the territories also work within the aviary, which I think is brilliant, because I really didn't think about that, but it makes a lot of sense, because the aviary at least works exactly like a normal habitat. You can also put like trees and stuff in. You have to fulfill the needs of your dinosaurs that are flying in there as well. So it makes a hell of a lot of sense that you have the same control. The lagoon works a little bit different. Obviously, they have different needs, and you can't put trees into your lagoon. But I think from a technical standpoint, both work the exact same way, just in a different direction on the Z-axis, if you want. The one thing goes into the air, the other thing goes down into the ground, and the one thing has like a liquid fluid in it as a kind of overall fluid, and the other one has air. So basically both are tanks filled with some kind of liquids. Anyhow, this is a territory you can see over here within the habitat. Again, if you're not familiar with the idea of territories, in Jurassic World Evolution 2, you don't only have the habitat, and the animals in there won't live in the entire habitat. They will search for a dedicated territory suiting their needs, and you have to make sure that everything you do is within their territory. Now, this is pretty nice. Also, over here, you can see how they're flying around and basically building their territory, and I like the fact how this exactly works. You know, this is also to fulfill the sizes they need. This is to fulfill their food demand, their foliage demand, and all these kind of things have to be within their territory and not only within their habitat. So it doesn't really help if you have everything in a habitat if it's not in the territory, just as a little bit of an help over here. So you can see this is how it works. If you enlarge something, you just tuck another piece to it, and then you have to wait until it's built, and once it's built, you can basically enlarge the aviary or the tank, because it basically works exactly the same. Here you get another glimpse of how you hatch one of the, I think it was also Mosasaurus. I'm watching it very small right now, so I'm not sure if that was. I'm not really going over all the animals that have been released, because first of all, I'm not as much as an expert as all the others, and I would most definitely mess something up. So it's way easier to look at Reddit, or to look at the forums, or look at Discord. You will find lists of all animals that we've seen in here. I will actually make myself the work to find all the footage in the next coming days, and I'm just going to upgrade my species field guide with all the animals that have been shown during Gamescom. There were a couple of animals or dinosaurs that have been more or less released, or like shown, you know. Also, what I like over here is that the hitboxes of the stones seem to be very small this time, and you can put them right, you know, close to each other, which I like is another very good hint that we get a bit more creative freedom. So yeah, I think it's time for a little final talk about this game and this Gamescom content drop. And I have to say, despite some disappointing bits, which I already knew kind of would happen anyways, because we are talking about a game that is not really meant to be a planet game. It is an own standing game focused on a bit more management and obviously focused on the IP of Jurassic World Evolution. That aside, I really think there are some significant improvements we've seen now. The gameplay looks good, it looks solid. There are a couple of things that I like a lot, naming the treatment facilities, the fact how cutscenes and stuff are integrated into the gameplay seem nice. The control over time is very handy to, you know, remain in control of what is happening. I love the lagoons and aviaries. I like how they work. I think it's a perfect symbiosis between easy to do and easy to build, but still giving us a lot of customizability options. So yeah, I'm overall very happy with the content. If I did forget about anything very important, please let me know in the comments what is your most favorite thing you have now seen during the Gamescom, and what are you still missing? What would you love to see from the final game? Also, if there is an animal or dinosaur missing on the roster at this point, which you are missing, put this animal down in the description below, in the comments below, so we can talk about if it's likely to see that animal in the final game. And now I really hope you guys are having a blast this weekend. Enjoy your time, have a good time, and I hope we see each other, talk to each other, hear each other in the next episode. Stay safe, everyone.